Okay, here we go. Wow. I'm just kind of taking it all in for just a second. I'm noticing so many people from so many different walks of life. My former colleagues of mine, and one of my former students who's an attorney now, and Matt, you raise your hand. Yep. Back in ninth grade. Here's the story. I'm going to tell the story because back in ninth grade, I said, Matt, you're going to grow up one day to be an attorney because you like to argue so much. And guess what? Yep. So thank you. And a handful of my former, very dear friends from high school are also here today as well. So I'm really incredibly grateful for that. My fellow poets. So it's just, and friends from Frostburg and Virginia, everywhere. This is exciting. So thank you for being here. And I am going to take a few minutes because I have to run through and want to run through and thank appropriately. First and foremost, the Writers Center. It's delightful to be back here. I participated in the past in a number of readings with the Delmarva Review and Broadkill Press, and it's just, it is has been a home for me, a touchstone. So it's lovely to be here and to have this event here in this space. So, and I want to thank especially Zach Powers of the Writers Center, and in particular today, Amy Freeman, for the ice and the glass of Prosecco. So I really appreciate that. I think that really helped. You knew that I needed that. So thank you. And I'd also like to thank the Writers Center on behalf of Plume. The Writers Center has been a very generous host to Plume, the online contemporary poetry journal, for hosting virtual readings over the past several years. So I would be remiss if I didn't mention that. And I'm sure Danny, the editor-in-chief of Plume, would second that. So thank you as well for that. And so I also want to especially thank Leeya Mehta, who is also one of the associate editors at Plume. And she is the director of the Allen Shoes International Writers Center, which is located at George Mason University. The center has done such extraordinary work in developing a global community of writers, translators, and readers through public programs that are meant to deepen civic engagement. And I just wanted to shout out to you and to the center for everything that you do on behalf of the community. And you're also a member of the board of the Inner Loop, which also promotes diversity, inclusion in for writers in the local DC community. So a nod to that, and also for your help and guidance in coordinating this program. It means so much to me, your support, and as does the support of everyone on that's going to be reading with me today. So we're actually here to celebrate not just the launch of Postmortem Say, my poetry collection, but Danny Lawless's collection, I Tell You This Now, as well. And both of our books were published by Červená Barva Press, which is based in Massachusetts. And so we are very fortunate to have our publisher and fellow poet, Gloria Mindock, here with us today as a reader. So I'm really, really excited. Danny came all the way from Florida to be here today. Gloria took the train from Massachusetts. And so it's so meaningful, and I'm really grateful that you were both able to be here. And last but certainly not least, Nancy Mitchell, my dear, dear poetry sister, who has been a mentor and friend to me. And she's also, she's another fellow editor at Plume, but she's also an artist. And I have to give her credit for the amazing artwork for the cover of Postmortem Say. So she actually, my chapbook, I will pass even to Asheron. The cover art was hers as well. So I've already got my eye on on something else for the next book. So I call dibs on that. I also would like to thank Roman Kostovsky, who is generously offered to film the reading for us today. I'm deeply appreciative of that. Another local writer, and I believe acquisitions, correct me if I'm getting this wrong, but acquisitions editor for Plume Press, and also does work with the Shoes Center. So we're really grateful for that. So thank you, Roman. It takes a community to get here. And so I wanted to celebrate the community of writers and people who have been an integral part of getting this book, published, and me here standing before you today. So you're going to hear a lot of different poetry voices today. And we'll leave time for some conversation and informal mingling afterwards. And give me a second to take a breath here. And I want to make sure that I'm not forgetting anything. I feel like I am. There's always something. What have I missed? Who have I forgot? So, okay. Well, let me say a word about that. So I do want to, I was going to do that a little bit later, but I'll do it now. But most of you in this room know that the last several years have been extraordinarily difficult and trying personally. I mean, you know that, you've lived it with me, and I could go pretty much with everyone in this room and tell you what you've meant to me over the past several years. And my parents especially. Dad. Yes, I love you, Dad. But and unfortunately my mother is not able to be here with us today, but she is in spirit. She's at home. She's not, she's actually, she has to have a hip replacement. So she's taking it easy. But I do want to recognize my parents for providing a safe space and place for me to sort of land the last couple of years. That's been so important. I'm really appreciative. And Dad, thank you for the ice. Okay. Well, if I've forgotten anything and I remember, I'll say that later when I read. But I'm going to turn it right over right now to Leeya Mehta, and she's going to be our first reader today. Thank you, Leeya.
Hello. It's nice to see everybody. Thank you for coming out. I will try not to trip on the cord. I'm going to read the first 3 poems of my book, A Story of the World Before the Fence. And a little note about the poems. They're based on the origin story of my people. We're Parsi Zoroastrians from Iran that went to India as refugees to be able to practice our religion and thrive in a place that was more receptive to our people. And this happened in many waves, but starting in the 900s, from what was then Persia to what is now India. Refugees, circa 917 AD. The boat is too small for so many, and only the twin babies sleep, drunk on milk and swaddled tight, rocking against their mother Almighty, as the men row hard into the familiar waters of the Gulf of Hormuz for the last time, the starlight on the receding mountains, dimming fast until what is left of this new moon night is the abiding light from their holy fire, fed carefully by their priest with sticks of sandalwood pulled from deep in his white robes as he looks east into the black Arabian Sea. All the joy and blood that had come before already turning to myth, he counts how many generations it takes to go from conqueror to refugee. Gold bangles ring out as the twin babies are given to their grandmother, then their great-grandmother, and passed back to their mother, 17. Back erect, molten copper hair, fawn brown eyes flecked with green, hiding tiger, quick to anger, as quick to forgive the everyday abuses girls seem not to know they carry. The father, Sorab, 25, son of Bezan, named after his grandfather, Sorab, the same names alternating and reaching back into the oldest Persian towns, winding up rivers into orchards where they planned their winter voyage, had 4 boats in sight ahead and 6 behind him. But now they are hidden by night as they row with speed, the wind still, the vessels arrows through the air. So when tired eyes stir with the new dawn and the babies Bezan and Avan tug with little hands to drink steam from their breath against her chest, their mother lifts her head as the men cry, land. She does not expect rose petal beach like silk shivering before her. Armide pulls herself to her knees to look at the land, at the water's edge that shifts and stirs as if it is made of wings disturbed by the coming of her people, only to gasp as flocks of long-limbed flamingos rise up into the sky and scatter, revealing a sanctuary of white beach. Sleep. You know that feeling when you are caught at the edge of sleep and consciousness, too tired to stay awake even if the world is not safe enough to rest in. Armide drifts into that place, the clouds' fine lines in the evening sky. She is falling into new earth. Bezan and Avan are white milk rocks at either side, smoothed into oblivion. She reaches for the voices that talk close by, but they do not remain long enough to comprehend. Before the words flap and are out of reach. Their priest returns and his message makes her strain to wake, but she cannot. She keeps dropping his words into heavy stones on the floor. Like, she does comprehend, though, that they may stay. Welcome. They are told her people may carry the past with them, every building, every word, even God, but they may not give it away to their new country. They can remember, but they may not feed their old stories to their new neighbors as if they are the true God's food. They say, though there are many gods here, respect ours, but do not give us yours. They are told, keep your stories whole, but separate. They are told, keep your fires lit, cut wood for it in our forests, grow your own trees on our land, but do not take our children into your temples. They are given jungle that stretches as far as the eye can see to a river. They plant their seeds from their old home, pomegranate, rose, sandalwood. The local builders sit with them and plan homes. The sea is rich with salmon and mackerel. Dolphins call in the evening light. They teach the locals how to build better boats and plant orchards and flowers like their Persian gardens. They flatter their new countrymen and add Krishna to their makeshift altars as they dig wells and chop wood. The Portuguese arrive with Christ. They take him in, worship the old gods, indulge the new. Their fire burns quietly. It does not feast. It does not spread. They keep their promise. For centuries, their numbers are small, then diminish. They have been too modest. Is that the price of real civilization? Thank you.
Just introducing Nancy Mitchell will be the next reader. Thank you, Leeya. That was lovely.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here for this wonderful launch. I know you hold Amanda as dearly as most of us. And where is Dad, anyway? Is that Dad? Hi, Dad. I've heard a lot about you. All good stuff. So it's wonderful. And I just want to say, you know, to Amanda, someone who went through hell and back and emerged to own it. Amanda. So. There's a beautiful line from a Louise Glick poem. At the end of my suffering, there was a door. And I always think, you know, the book was her door. It was right at the right time. And Gloria, you must have had an intuition about this. And I wanted to say, Danny Lawless is our editor. Most of us here, and you've published Danny's book, we are with the great ship Plume. And I think what's so wonderful about Danny and also wonderful about Gloria is that he has such a devoted staff because he trusts us. He trusts us. And Gloria trusts that any recommendation coming from her, from one of her authors, is enough. So there's a lot of trust and good feeling here, and I can tell that there's a lot of good feeling among you all. So thank you so much for letting me be a part of it, Amanda. I'll just read a few poems because I'm anxious to hear Amanda read. And these few are from my book, The Out of Body Shop, which is a shop where people who've been thrown out of their bodies by way of trauma go to, you know, that feeling that you have when there's something very traumatic where the feet mechanical go round. You just are not in your body. So these psyches go to the out of body shop to find out how they can be retrofit. It's kind of sci-fi. It's not really the way I write. But anyway, here it is. This was written during the Me Too movement because I know a lot of us were triggered a lot by I hope I'm not offending anyone, but the Kavanaugh trial and things that came out after. And then a lot of women were writing poems like this. And this is in the out of body shop, they have an invoice, just like when you go to the hospital, etc. So this is intake invoice. Female, 5th grade. School bus driver, grandfatherly, smelled of soap and rising dough. Called her Chica Bonita, asked about books she liked. His hand, blue vein, skin, thin as tracing paper, slid up her blouse, calloused edge of his thumb, nicking her nipple. The whole time he was smiling. Typical symptoms, lightness of being, sense of shrinking. Exit point, the black hole in his eye. God hole, she called it. Static, yes. Time out, elapsed, unknown. So that's how few people ended up there in the out-of-body shop. But each of these voices are from people who ended up there. So they are friends in the out-of-body shop until they can be retrofitted into going back. Okay. Friends here. These are the psyches in the out-of-body shop. If any of you are artists and would like to collaborate with me with an exhibit about the out-of-body shop, I have an idea. So, friends here. All we are now is floating text next to a thumbnail of the body we left. We reminisce on all the ways a warm body feels against another warm body and how voices sound so differently in fog than in the dark and day, and everything, the smell of rain, changes. We try not to complain about the phantom ache. We try to be grateful. We like each other. We have emojis. So just a few more here. These are from this manuscript in progress, which is, about my parents all of a sudden. My poor my poor family. I'm sure they're like, oh my God, is this ever going to end? But it's not. So, so as an introduction, Ah, and Father, wanton wanderer, squander quandary, daughter qualm, fog bother. Ah, da, farther God, farther. Okay. And just a few more looking back. Blame my mother if I could, but cocktails were de rigueur in the 50s. If you don't believe me, go read Cheever. Umbilical tethered fist of gills and fin, I twisted in placental gin. At 5, first tipsy inch of whiskey, Daddy tumbled into my baby cup. Cheers! I love the dizzy, dizzy, spinning monkey bars and trees, and falling, I saw the double helix in the stars. My own spiral stairway to heaven. Before I walked, Daddy pitched me off the pier, and like the witch I came to be, I rose like soap, and flailing water into foam, I beat my way back into his arms. If I pray at all, it's to water, I whisper, not this twisted fist of sand and reeds, this spit between the estuary and sea. And I'll just read 2 more, and then I'll finish. I think Barbie's okay. Yeah, I'm not really sure. Please, okay. This one is just, I'll jump ahead to this. I'm real fascinated. My sister has dementia, and one of my closest friends, fabulous, brilliant poet, before she died, she had dementia. And it was, the things they talked about were so interesting because there was a certain kind of logic to it. Even though they couldn't remember things, the things they remembered were so vivid that I just started paying attention. And then my imagination took over and I made things up. But anyway, this is Sister Dementia Remembers. Enough of bosom, ass, and pillow. It's up and out to get the bird before the early worm, the bone between my teeth before I drop it, the last olive out of the jar. I lived in a brown stand-alone with a stay-at-home. At the first sprig of forsythia, he'd lay me down on the table and take out his razor to trim me up for bikini season. How happy it made him to see me so kempt. God knows I never had a bikini, but by God, did I have a body. When the night nurse slipped out of post-op for a vending bag of Cheetos and a 20-minute smoke, my mother's throat swelled shut. When you sing, St. Augustine said, you pray twice. I think I'll end on that. Amanda, are you going now? Okay. Thank you.
Of course, I remember what I forgot. There are postcards that I meant to hand out ahead of time, but as they're on the red circular table back there, but on the back of them, you'll see the event poster on one side, and then on the back of them, it contains a brief, a bio for all of us so that you can read more about, thank you, Amy. Yes. Sure. Take a second to... And also, while Amy's doing that, I also want to shout out somebody here who, Nancy, and thank you for your reading. I mean, just amazing, you and Leeya. And I want to shout out Richard Peabody. Can you wave, Richard? Can you wave? So, and you mentioned me too, and I just want to mention, to acknowledge you, Richard Peabody is the editor of Gargoyle magazine and publisher of Paycock Press, and both, as I think many of us in the room know, is absolutely Washington, D.C. institution. So I want to acknowledge him. He's been a dear friend to me and has supported my work as well. But also, and more importantly, he has been a staunch supporter for years and years of women. And I think that it's important to acknowledge that. He's really an amazing person, human being and writer, editor. So thank you, Richard. Yeah. Ammunition. After Fang snapped photos of the boys and sent them to you to show he knew where we lived and where they went to daycare, your carry permit came in 2 days, and so did the state police, who drove from Pikesville to surveil our home the way you surveil with trail cams the deer you hunt with your bow and muzzleloader, the 12 gauge that leans against the safe in the game room where you keep all your dead. Your 45 caliber Sig Sauer is the thing you said would keep us safe, that you still keep loaded, no safety, in your jeans drawer. Because a gun is no good if you can't get to it in time. Because a good man with a gun is better than. Because the worst part of a threat is the always waiting but never knowing when of it. Sometimes I dream I die at the Food Lion, close range, a single shot to the head, my blood spattering frozen peas and lima beans. Sometimes I dream you die, your body bagged, loaded on a stretcher outside the county courthouse. I've learned to live with drawerfuls of shot shells and the clink of brass bullets as they spill from your pockets in the spin cycle. I have learned the hollow point bullet is best for self-defense because of the way it blooms in soft tissue. But the day you left your Sig loaded on the kitchen table, the boys were home, and I learned I could say it. I will leave you. How many times have I sworn it? Don't make promises you can't keep, Chekhov said. One must not put a loaded rifle on the stage if no one is thinking of firing it. Yet here we are, loaded guns across the page, and I still can't pull the trigger. You don't need to clap for every poem, but thank you. Leaving Limekiln Road. As if I could exchange my life like shoes bought a half size too small. Trade the corn-tasseled flatness for pines and limestone. I said it, I want to leave him. Put my fingers to your lips, blue ribbon of my car's exhaust wavering. I want to leave him. I play and replay your words until I don't want you to becomes I don't want you. The crush of wheels on gravel. How to track a body. And I don't mean a human body, but I kind of do. So living on the Eastern Shore for so many years, it's and kind of going back and putting this book together in the editorial process, I realized how many deer were just populated this manuscript, and I've sort of resolved to never. I don't want any more deer in. There will be no more deer in any of my poems ever. But so this poem, it was actually about tracking a deer, but I realized, and I admit sometimes I'm slow, processing, but yeah, it is about, how to track a body. It is about tracking the body. I think so much of this manuscript and the book is about tracking how the body manifests and processes loss, how it grieves, how it desires. What does it mean to be in the body, especially a female body? So if I had to give the 10,000 foot kind of overview, that would be it. So how to track a body. You can track a body by the blood it leaves. You will need patience. You may need to get on your hands and knees and crawl through brown stalk and winter thicket. You may find yourself walking in circles for hours when the trail goes cold. You may never find it. You may need to come back the next day and look again in the light. You will need a good eye to see threads of white snagging briars, to tell one kind of blood from another, gut from liver, lung from heart. A lung shot, for instance, foams pink, but a heart shot is darker. It spills all at once. More deer. Dear Madness. They're out there now, careening across frost-hard fields, springing onto roads like Olympic gymnasts. So many accidents waiting. On my way to you tonight, I watch for the brown sliver skimming pines, the white tuft of flicking tail in twilight. It's the peak of the rut when a doe will sometimes abandon her young to breed again. I envy that freedom, the no thought to consequences of it. But selfish is what I said the day my neighbor sent her girls to school, then left for Texas with her lover. No one suspected, least of all her witless husband. Still, the signs had been there. Her sudden weight loss, desire thins. Her new job, mere pretext. And her children? I can't stand looking at them anymore, their moon-blank faces at the bus stop. What could they know of the body, how it goes where it must? Like the doe who's running into my lights. I can see it now in the wet glint of her dark eye, that wild hunger. Before she's gone so quickly, I wonder if I've seen her at all, or if anything can stop her. Portent. He'd gone again, dressed in camo and a bulletproof vest, cig at his hip. Gone despite her constant nagging, the why go if you don't have to, and what if something happens, please? But where else the exhilaration? With their sickly boys, 3 and 1, who never slept? With his depressed, distant wife, who left piles of laundry, never cooked, cleaned, gardened? Who cut her eyes at him, yes, he'd seen her, his heavy foot, the shaking floor. Still, he always came home, no different tonight. But for the quickly conjured summer storm, his pickup struck by lightning as he pulled into the drive, and he nearly burned alive while she'd been where? Safe, inside. And later swore she hadn't heard him. Unlock it, damn it. His fists on the door. I hadn't read this, but this is a poem that, it's an older poem that, and one of the first ones that I wrote when I started writing after, when the kids were little, when I started writing again and writing poetry. It's a poem that it won the Patricia Dobler Poetry Prize that was judged by Leeya Mehta, and I read it for that, I read it there for the celebration for that, and I didn't read it for a really long time, but I've been reading it lately because it feels really important and urgent to me, and I feel like, I often feel helpless, like, there's not a whole lot that we can do, but speak from our experience. And every time that I've read it, I've had women come up to me afterwards and talk to me and say, that happened to me too, or I have a story. So I'm going to read it in honor of that. It's called A Woman from the Infant Mortality Review Board Calls. No, I am not an addict. Yes, I had a doctor. No, we are not smokers. No, I do not want you coming to our home. I could see it on the sonogram's chalk sketch, the club foot and cleft palate, fingers like vines, some extra ones. A 1 in 10,000 error of cell division, the specialist said. Most women miscarry before it gets this far. 30 hours after the Pitocin and morphine, After the resident shoved his gloved fist into me to ripen my cervix with a kelp stick, I gave birth to a shiny, bruised doll, small enough to fit into a wicker Easter basket, and whose silence was welcome. Out of body. I'll read this. This was one that in Gargoyle. All night, cobalt skies and purple dandelions, many red balloons. The ones who lived so far are safe, tubed and sleeping in their plastic cubes. Why not mine? Here, nothing but needles and deep sea tangle. In my hands, almost you. I'm afraid I haven't been watching time. I just have two more and then Light Glow. Meditation on my right breast and stall number 7. How it sags under its own weight, so much bigger than the left, asymmetric. I take it in my palm, shake it a little. What's inside? Microcalcifications. A sack of marbles. Maybe nothing, probably nothing. Still, there's potential architectural distortion. Could be a sign of architectural distortion. Scared, writes Sarah 2158. At 60, her breast should not be getting thicker. And Nightcrawler was just diagnosed with ductal carcinoma. Lately, I've been reading cancer threads on Reddit. Sometimes women post updates, sometimes not. You can never be sure who's still alive by the time you read them. And the x-rays of cancerous breasts, translucent globes of streaming white threads cinched at the point of malignancy, almost beautiful. I always wanted to be beautiful. I have always wanted too much. If I'm lucky today, I'm only lucky. It's frailty that scares me, the slow rot. Being spared long enough to watch while the ones we love the most suffer for reasons they cannot seem to explain. All right, and I'm actually going to finish with this one for John. Because I am lonely and you will not know my pain. I'm pausing you at 6 seconds, just after you turn from the hood of the old blue Mercury to look back at the camera, at me, though I am not there, not yet, not the one recording how the wind, as you adjust the ignition coil, will whip across your lips the loose strands of your hair, or how, beneath your fingers, the iron horse will fire again, so loudly that everything, even the camera, will shake with the force of 3,000 horses. And thank you. Thank you all so much. And then Dark Horse was actually the name of one of the another name of the car. So you'll notice there's Dark Horse Wine back there. That was a little nod. So I'm going to invite Gloria Mindock up, my editor, publisher, editor-in-chief of Červená Barva Press. Gloria, thank you so much. I'm honored to have you here and to have everyone hear your voice with us today. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. And I have to do this. Hi to Amanda's dad. I couldn't resist. And thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here and to read with all of you. And I am so excited and thrilled to have published Amanda and Daniel. So you guys are the best, all of you, really. I'm going to read from Grief Touched the Sky at Night, and it's about the war in Ukraine. I have many friends that are Ukrainian and Russian. The blindfold. Blindfold me so I don't see the damage, the dead bodies or blood on the ground. Wrap the blindfold tightly around my eyes so I don't see the Russian tanks. Puncture my ears so I don't hear the sirens that a missile is coming. Tie my hands together so I can't take a life. God would not want me to do this. Bind my legs so I won't run and flee from my home. Stop my heart from feeling loss, sadness, and grief before it overwhelms me. The soldiers are killing my family and friends, slitting their throats and burning them. I know this. Remove my blindfold, untie my hands, give me my hearing back, give me a weapon. This next one was inspired by two women on 60 Minutes who were prisoners of war. Bandages. In a Russian prison, she could hear the cries of Ukrainian men being raped. She was pregnant. Her husband did not know. All she wanted was her baby to be born in Ukraine. Speaking to her stomach, urging, "Wait, little one." In a prisoner exchange, her baby was born in Ukraine. Another woman, so brutalized, she was not sure she would live, yet she's ready to fight again. Still, she did not want to leave home. Bombed out shell, dried blood in the dirt, wreckage like abstract art. A boot in the road filled with flowers, someone mourning a life, mourning their life. In some villages, every heart stopped beating at once. Can a village survive, supported by the beating hearts of only two? Yet the women carry on in the footprints stretched out before them, walking the same path, breathing a different story for a free Ukraine. My sister Kellis and I always wanted to go to Kiev to hear the bells from the churches. You can hear them on YouTube, so I doubt the churches are still standing. And this is called Bells of Kiev. The churches are empty, half standing, no bells to ring, and the wreckage lays across no one has touched. Jesus lays there, broken. Is there a meaning to this? Will he rise again in this country? Someone will pick him up, carry him in their arms, kiss the cross he is on. Everyone needs to be protected, to be loved. Someone else will find his hand, no nails binding the freedom we all need. I was thinking about getting rid of some junk that I have in the apartment. It's so hard. And then, so my other half, he's very patient. But anyway, I was thinking how hard it was. And in Ukraine, when all those women and children crossed over the border to Poland, how they had to leave everything behind. And here I am, I can't get rid of one thing. So this poem came out of thinking about that. And it's called I Don't Mourn. I mourn what I throw away, old paintings, photographs, objects, writings. Each thing drifts into the wind, trying to stick to life but can't. Is this me too, trying to hang on? No one has the same memories, same things in possession. Must I give all this up? Ignore me. I don't mourn. Best to close down, shut my eyes tight until darkness is my fate. I can have little funerals daily as I pitch out life. This way, you will never own me. You don't want to anyway. Junk to you. From the grave, hope my things will visit me. I don't want to be alone. Maybe you will sit by stone and talk, carrying in your pocket your favorite thing of mine. And I'll close with a poem called Boots. My boots are dirty, but not from dirt. My boots are heavy, but not from weight. My boots are untied, but not from neglect. My boots are on the road. I did not take them off. My boots are worn by someone else. I did not give. My body is naked. I did not remove my clothes. My dignity remains while the dirt covers me. I love my country. I love my country. I am Ukraine. Thank you.
Thanks.
And now I'm happy to introduce Daniel.
I see we're working on the principle of save the worst for last. The book that I have, I think I have a copy of it up here with me. It's called I'll Tell You This Now. And I realize it's not in sections, but as I looked at it more, in fact, it does follow about 3 or 4 things. One is my youth, and one is long, louder. It's yes. I've heard this 100 times in my life. I'm soft-spoken. How's that? Yeah? Okay. Thank you. So youth, and there'll be couple of elegies. They're all pretty short, and some definitions, actually. So we'll talk about that. So the first one is called Family Photographs, My Brother, Solar Eclipse, 1965. And I should only say that my brother was diagnosed with schizophrenia about age 14, as were my sister and younger brother. I was the one who was not so, and I was fortunate. So, in a year, Haldol, ECT, the closed gates of a sanatorium. But for now, how happy you were to be 11 and unconcerned for once with school, the Cubs, who punched who. For a few minutes to be unlearned, to be taught a new world. Oh, distant boy, how marvelous it all must have been to be turned into a ghoul with your friends, to spurn the murmur of grown-ups with their highballs and hair on the deck, for lowering sky burnt sepia orange. At 3 o'clock, to feel yourself disappear inside yourself, to cast no shadow. And so long ago now, how did you put it? The delicious, insistent thought, what if it stays like this? To yearn, and yet not to know yet what that yearning meant. That's a joy, isn't it? Yeah. The next one is less so a joy, I suppose. It's called Not Fireflies. I would say that I'm from the South. I'm from Kentucky, and we call them lightning bugs. Did you guys call them lightning bugs or fireflies? Yeah, I had the exact. I was just up in Cambridge and had the exact opposite. Everyone called them fireflies, and it always seemed sort of highfalutin to me to call them fireflies. So this is called Not Fireflies. Not fireflies. In the South, but plainer, lightning bugs. Not as the poets would have it, you deers carrying your little lanterns behind you. Green stars, or the faulty strike of a match. Not as you once imagined, the visiting souls of your dead parents. Only you, poor boy, lonely god of the backyard, and these flickering insects trapped in a juice glass, to be smeared between your fingers or tapped with a stick, set free with a magician's flourish, according to your cold, your wondrous heart. And the last of the youth poems, you'll be glad to know, is Boyhood. And it covers the much earlier years than I see that you have spent on this earth. Is boyhood. And now we come to the poem of the great mystery of the years, 1957 to 1963. As you can see, it's a short poem with just enough room for the apple core I broke my front tooth on, one of Mary Kay Johnson's pigtails, an invisible photograph of my brother waving through the iron gates of a sanatorium. A King Edward's cigar box of a poem, let's say, where, emptied of its jackknife, centimes, and wax lips, a parakeet might face eternity, serenely nestled in a wad of Kleenex. Or maybe even a shed-sized poem, the dank, mysterious one with jars of rusted nails and coiled hoses behind the garden, where I like to pretend I was flying down a long Swiss mountain road on my father's flat-tired Schwinn, propped between two ancient suitcases. Yes, that's the ticket, a shed-sized poem. Nails, hoses, my dad's cobwebbed bicycle, and I whistling through a missing incisor, ringing somewhere in the alpine years of 1957 to 1963, the bright silver bell of its title. Not a bad childhood, all things considered. Unfortunately, I suppose I'll get to a couple of elegies here. Lots of, not quite on of Amanda dimensions, but it's been something of a trying time for my life, I suppose, too. And I happened, people always want to know about these poems. An event occurred, and I was writing at my desk, and I had one of those little, the title of the poems, Etched Pewter Bird. You know, those little birds where the top comes off, you know, and then you put little beads or something, whatever you're going to put in there. It's about, and so I looked over, yeah, that'll work. So this is called Etched Pewter Bird. You who are empty, and so neither desire the expensive organic seed mix or require the attentions of the fastidious vet, who do not cheep so psychotically cheerfully that sometimes I want to throttle you. You who do not retreat coyly from my outstretched hand or tremble wildly if I hold you, who never once perched spitefully in the branches of the thorny locust tree behind the garage after I left your cage door ajar in summer, or in other seasons mockingly eluded my ridiculous broom. You who fix your Avertine eye indifferently upon me at all times, unlike real birds, who, if they regard me at all, regard me suspiciously or skeptically and keep their distance, as if they are tourists guarding their passports. You, in other words, little generic etched pewter bird on my desk, who should signify nothing at all to me, in fact, except from across the country, the news arrived not 8 hours ago yet, this windless December night, that my oldest friend in this world is dead, and there isn't anything she or I can do about that. And my heart, oh my stunned heart, on its cupola of ribs, is cold now as your weather-vane double, nameless, hollow, not hawk or sparrow. And the last of the elegies, there's too many of these things. But for those who are train lovers, if I know you came down, Gloria, on the train, so here's a little train poem for you. Yeah. Except the title is On Your Way to Your Funeral Already Sleep Deprived. It's a mixed bag for you. Yeah. But it ends on a hopeful note. So let's say that. Okay. On the way to your funeral, already sleep deprived, on the slow overnight train from Chicago to Altoona, after people had settled down, having hoisted their heavy bags onto the overhead rack and unfurled a magazine or unwrapped a tired muffin or iffy-looking chicken salad sandwich. I heard somewhere a few rows up a kid swear, "No, it was a real live corpse." Pretty funny, but an image that stayed with me all the way to Toledo. As I gazed at my haggard face through the window in the growing dark, were cows and trees and stop signs, and here and there an unmoored trailer floated by as if a dim river had overrun its banks, as if I were already thinking of them in the afterlife. Or in a more Zen or theoretical physicist sense, as if when I let my brow fall against the cold glass, my own face disappearing, the cows and trees and stop signs and occasional double wide had become my thoughts alone, disembodied, drifting out from the Ohio countryside into the vast, unknowable universe. An image that stayed with me, an image that inevitably vanished, as despite the grinding of the heavy wheels and the screeching of the air brakes, I took a little nap, then got up to massage my aching thighs and use the bathroom. Which is pretty much where I'd like to leave you, Robert. Opening the door with a majestic yawn to find everyone silently gathering their things in the half-lit car, the kids rubbing their eyes as you wipe your hands on a crisp white handkerchief. As the porter with his gleaming silver cart comes rattling down the aisle with his fresh times for sale and his steaming croissant, the tiny bubbles of Perrier rising in their tinkling green bottles, as the voice from the loudspeaker announces, "Altoona, Altoona, next stop Altoona," as if it were heaven itself, your hometown. Thank you. Thank you. I'll read just this one is the centerpiece of the book. It's the only thing I would tell you is you guys all know Robert Bly, right? And you've read Silence in the Snowy Fields, which our book came out in '62. It meant a lot to me. But this is before Robert Bly devolved into all that manpower business and Iron John and all that stuff. But he was great in 1962 for me. So I don't know what happened to Robert Bly, but yes, this is before that. Pardon me? Pardon me? I said Robert Bly happened to Robert. Yeah, I suppose so. It was self-inflicted wound, wasn't it? Yeah. So this is, I tell you this now, Tom, because you're dead. In 1977, when the tornado, as hunger blows through bodies blue through the nearby cemetery, leaving only the chattering teeth of old gravestones and the naked carotene trunks of toppled elms. When it snatched up the adjacent Carmelite cloister and shook it, impaling two young postulants on shards of exploding rafters as they huddled in the chapel, before heading east to untangle two newlyweds and wreathe their infant son in barbed wire. I was alone in the quiet basement library room in a college, reading Robert Bly's Silence in the Snowy Fields. I tell you this now, Tom, because you are dead. Because speaking to the flawed dead who are perfect now is easy. As I lean again tonight over your body and stare a long time into your eyes, as though a train window veiled with soft dust, until the words I read then but never got a chance to say come to me as a few simple wishes. That despite the anguish and crazy hungers that spiraled through your life, you too might have known the calm I knew that afternoon of iron mailbox handles and dark tire tracks in snow, and somehow understood the salvation of guinea hens hidden from the hired girl's hatchet in impossible places, asleep in the trees, even if that salvation was not yours. That if you trembled in your hospital bed, it was only the slight trembling of words on white pages opened on a table, like the trembling of grass or water deep in the wells. That is temporary. A wish that says, after the terrible whirlwind blew through, it was as if on a train the conductor had poked you, and you arrived out of the darkness, suddenly awake to a strange new city, utterly happy. Thank you. Thank you. And so these are three really short little poems, and I'll end here with one after that, and we'll be out of here. This one, so these poems are about, I start off with a definition of a word and it kind of works into some other experience. This first one's called Once. It's called Once, yes. Beautiful gliding word, although perhaps less a word than an exhalation. Circa 1300, a simple adverbial generative. An F like S become CE, affixed to the Middle English NA, meaning formally at one time, per the OED. Nevertheless, its intent always complex, contextual. Sometimes a little wince in there, a little ache, desire too, and wonder. Once we begin, our lips puckered as if for a kiss, but a kiss that never comes, breathless, forever in the past. And this is a little quiz poem for you. And somebody always gets it right. What is an aglet? A-G-L-E-T. Come on, you guys do Wordle and spelling bee. What is it? Yeah, you got it? Yeah, the little plastic bit at the end of your shoelace. That's the name of the poem, Aglet. Okay. Aglet. And so the first parts of this are associative, right? What it means, might mean, but probably doesn't. Aglet, a bloodletting tool, a vestigial claw, a liturgical vestment, a kind of stitch or stenographical notation, a vase, a fresh-born eel. It's fun now to imagine it could be any of these. But in 1967, the right answer was the little sheath at the end of a new shoelace. Da's nightly vocabulary quiz, home from the Clifton cab yard. The summer before Sean and I would try for posh St. Tim's. Years ago now, but I can still see it, his press shirt and flocked cap, that pipe he claimed the mayor himself had given him. The two of us watching a drop of spittle trickle the length of its lacquered stem as he continued from the old French, aiguille, needle, to point or pierce, colloquially a small sorrow. And the last one here, I'll do my worst German accent, so you'll regard that. And anybody, I'm from Kentucky, unless by my accent you can probably tell that, though I've been away for a long time. The photographer, and Nancy knows this person well, Eugene Meatyard. Isn't it the greatest name you've ever heard? Eugene Meatyard. You can't make that stuff. It's a great name. And he's a great photographer. But the poem is called Freudenschreck. That's it. That's my fake German accent. Okay. Freudenschreck, or intense pleasure fright. Leave it to the Germans to coin a word for the fleeting sense of being seized by such an inexplicable joy, it verges on terror. Or maybe it's inexplicable terror pretending to be joy. Also, a physical phenomenon. Neurologists say the amygdala glows red as a jackball, where their subjects gaze at images of planetesimals or gallows. Picture a joyride, the Appalachian pin brides of Eugene Meat Yard. Put yourself in the shoes of Ayana Clemens, 44, of Peru, Indiana, a longtime congregant of the Endes Christian Church, according to the Gazette, who may have had a seizure that caused her to shiver all over, although another passerby reported hearing her shout, "Praise him," or "Praise God," before she sort of rocked him, before casting that beautiful child into that cold river. And thank you very much. So I had these two little, would you rather have two little ones or one kind of longer one? Nobody cares, right? Okay. How many of you guys write poetry? And so how many of you submitted a poem to a literary magazine? Raise your hand. Yeah? Okay. Should I read this one? Yeah, I mean, all you guys have, of course. Okay. Okay, I'll read this long way and a tiny one. Then we'll be done. Swear to God. Okay, so this poem is about, because I edit, obviously, a magazine, and I was at an airport, and if you've ever had this experience, if you've edited anything at all, and they find out that you're an editor, what do you think they're going to do? Hand me some poems to read. Yeah, I shuffle. So, of course, that's what happened. So I was at this. The only thing you have to remember here, I guess, here is there's a mention of Allen Ginsberg and Big Ten football, otters. There are some otters in here. Heraclitus and the Arthur C. Clarke. A Patch of Black Ice and Oscar Wilde. That's kind of the poem right there. But, okay. So this guy, I meet him at the airport and he gives me a bunch of poems. And it's called From Emails to a Young Poet, on the play of Rilke, giving letters to a young poet. This one to Frank, my barmaid at Applebee's, as at 35,000 feet I still see and overhear myself shouting, "Say hello to Dolores," toward a receding Stetson in the full flush of 4 Dos Equis. And promise, as we head for our separate gates after our little bro tangle of Trump and Big 12 football that somehow clacked its 4 floor chimes right off the dance floor into the starry dynamo of the machinery of night. Or was it Dora? Anyway, although somehow I don't envision you as the type to be caught cowering in unshaven rooms in your underwear, or burning cigarette holes in your arms, protesting the narcotic tobacco haze of capitalism. I could be wrong. A great poet, if not an angel-headed hipster, might be slouching under that Lux salesman getup. Okay, maybe not a great poet, though not a terrible poet either. Like most of us, you have your moments. I'm thinking of the best one, about the otters. I'm thinking their steady gaze upon me, like the blank pages of old calendars. I'm not sure what it means, but I sense something else here, something wise, something zazen that doesn't do time or regret. Or maybe I'm jealous. The otters I've met have mostly taken one look at me and skedaddled. The little pouches under their arms where they keep spare rocks to hammer open sea urchins, you say? I didn't know that. Or reminds me suddenly of my Uncle Alejandro, whom I adored, a hairy little man with big enemies, who carried a derringer in his pocket through the dim alleys of Cicero, Illinois. And who would have thought Romp or Raft was their group name? That some, contra the sea urchins, are actually ovo-vegetarians. Do you know the word sapiosexual? It means a person who finds intelligence to be the most attractive feature in a human being. Noble but in the end doomed. The first girl I kissed on the lips was a budding 15-year-old Egyptologist. Her thin tongue slithered in my mouth like a dry hieroglyph for a few seconds, and that was that. Enter her cousin, the big-breasted Ophelia. What I mean is the otter facts are good things to know, but not the lingering scent of Jean Nate on your neck, not one ragged, unpainted toenail. They lack privacy and magic. What else? The word empire, not to nitpick, but well, I can imagine myself as an otter on the shore, bowing to an otter king, waving his paw when he floated by on his back. I'm not sure how his fur regalia would be different from mine. Would he sport epaulettes and a crown of some kind, like a cartoon, or do you mean in the Orwellian sense? All otters are kings, but some are kinglier than others, smarter or fatter, their coats glossier, perhaps. And wouldn't he be on top of, not inside the carriage of the river? Then things really go haywire. In stanza 3, the black fluidity of space and the amphorae of their frontal lobes sounds like Heraclitus and Arthur C. Clarke have been standing a little too close in the poetry elevator. And how does this relate to consciousness exactly? By the time a few lines later we get to the giant, your father, and his shirt front confettied with scattered Pall Mall flakes, you lost me. The otter has left the building. So frank. Imagine me putting on my editor's hat. Unfortunately, like the other ones, loneliness with otters is not for us. And now taking it off again. Maybe it's not for anybody. What I mean is how to say it. I'm no horticulturist, but a few days ago, I was leafing through one of my wife's international field guides and came across an orchid called Rhizoanthella gardneri. Dime-sized, apparently, it lives its entire life unseen, compressed in the underground crevices in Western Australia, where over generations its scent develops wild, unheard of intensities, many multiples of the common rose. Does that help? Or what's the line? The bird the painter doesn't paint makes the whole sky bluer? Something like that. On a personal note, decades ago, I did a good thing, a small thing, involving black ice and a station wagon full of teenagers. But told no one. Just the thought of it all these years has been like a nightlight in the back of my brain, illuminating some pretty dark stairs, a lot of gray, solemn afternoons. Anyway, sorry, gotta run, buddy. I can see the lights of Newark from my window seat, Christmas ornaments smashed to mithereens. Gotta unplug, gather up all these goddamn cords, stuff them into my computer case, and text my brother-in-law. By now, I guess you're halfway to the convention in Dallas. Maybe you're thinking about Dolores or Dora, scarfing peanuts, maybe starting to write another poem inspired by the curly-cued blue ribbon on the woman's head crowning over the front seat in the seat in front of you, the way it bobs like an amberjack lure in the steady stream of cold air rushing from the little nozzle. I can see that. But Frank, don't. Leave that woman's head alone. Just this once for me. Permit that ribbon to unfurl unmolested with all the majesty it can muster, which is a lot. Remember what I said about the flower, the bird, and the good thing? The power of compound interest is astonishing in the inner life, too. What did Oscar Wilde say? Only secrecy makes modern life mysterious and marvelous. And the last poem, a very short one, to go back to my youth. Childhood, very short poem. Childhood. Though childhood is not what a child would know to call it, the corpus callosum isn't quite connected yet. In any way, why would she want to? When you're 6, you're a ghost inside another ghost, unpierceable by anything in the substantial world, where this and this and this keeps happening. A knob of milky quartz juts out of a rock. There's a man on the moon, a box of matches adorned with a key. You wear your life lightly as the dog you name wears the name you name it. Thank you.
And that's a wrap. Thank you all again so much for coming out this afternoon. Thank you, Leeya, Nancy, Glo, Danny, for being here and sharing your work with us. And rather than doing any Q&A, I thought we would just nosh on some treats and have a little more to drink if you'd like, and just have some informal conversation afterwards. So thank you all so much. I'm incredibly grateful. Thank you.